Alright, I think that's about enough lead time. We're at Fujisawa Station, and I didn't realize that you could actually see Mount Fuji from here, which is kind of cool. It's a really nice view. Here's the rest of the mountain range around here. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me all right? I'm gonna put on gloves in a second, so I won't be able to like scroll the chat, but okay, there we go. My face, Mount Fuji, sunrise that way. But we're just gonna walk. Only left ear has sound? Really? Are you sure that's not on you? I don't think that could be from me. There it goes. Okay. Yo, yo, yo. What up? Yo, what up? Hope everybody got to see that view of Fuji, because we're gonna walk down this way, basically towards the river. Oh, this doesn't look like the right way to go. There's no way to get out down there, so we're just gonna go back up. So you get to see Mount Fuji again. There we are. Apparently you can't get down that way, which is unfortunate. But we're basically going out, down, and that way. Sounds fine. It's fixed after I spun the camera around? Weird. Yeah, I don't know what that is. I actually brought my second phone, so I'll be able to actually see where I'm going this time, unlike the last few times. So since you guys, there's a lot of people hiking, like in hiking gear. I'm not really sure why. There must be some good trails around here. But we would lose signal if we did that. So for now, we're just gonna walk this way. I think this is the right way. Yeah. So I've never been here before. So I'm not really sure where we're going, but there should be a good park. About an hour walk forward and then off to the left when we get to the river, basically. So since you guys are the ones actually subscribed, thank you, to the channel, I'll let you guys know early that I was talking to Kirsch. If you know, she's a VTuber, friends with Pippa. So I was talking to her in Twitter DMs about the whole translation versus localization thing. So it's not completely set in stone yet, but I'll probably be going onto her stream to talk about it, I think, next weekend. So I'm sure she'll make an announcement once it's all figured out, but that should be fun. We've got a bunch of examples of translation and localization stuff that you might not have heard of, and kind of how the difference is. Because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about what translation is and what localization is. If you've seen me rant on Twitter about it, you probably know that I'm not too keen on the whole idea of like all localization is bad. So we'll get into that in more detail. But yeah, if we can boost this stream a little bit more, that would be very cool. But obviously, it's not just about shout outs and stuff, so I want the stream to actually stand on its own. Which is why we're out here today. So I figured, since we're mostly just taking a walk today, I would talk in excruciating detail about translation philosophy rather than just showing a bunch of examples. Because I think if you understand the basics, or like the idea of where translation comes from first principles, it'll be a lot easier to understand where I'm coming from when we're talking about what is and isn't a good translation. because I've seen a lot of the arguments on Twitter get very bogged down. Yeah, bottle of ketchup. Yeah, her desk ketchup. It's fucked up. Yeah, what up, Genome? I've seen a lot of the arguments get very, very bogged down in terms of people who are talking about translation versus localization, who really don't understand what the point of translating is. So they'll say things like, don't just, we don't want a localization, just translate it one-to-one. Stuff like that, right? Which is kind of not a really valid point at all. And so then you get people in the industry, many of whom I consider to be bad actors, right, who are making very poor decisions and poor choices with, I think I'll just point you guys this way so you can see the mountains, at least for now, and where we're walking, who are making bad decisions and bad choices for a variety of reasons. But you end up ceding the high ground to them because you don't really understand, and I'm using you, not you guys, but the you in general, right? They don't really understand what it is that goes into a translation or the philosophy behind how translations get started to begin with, right? So if we're going to talk about translation from kind of a first principles perspective, that is getting really, really down to like brass tacks, you have to start with what is language? And I realize that sounds like the most basic thing ever, but you run into like the Dragon Maid translation, right? There was a whole back and forth between someone who is not the translator, but who was the script adapter. And that's another thing where people got really bogged down because they're like, well, you're not a translator, you just changed the lines, how could you do that? And then she would basically clap back like, you don't know how the industry works. And they don't. And so people were making really bad arguments, even though what she did was really messed up. And that's because there's a whole different layer of, taking the initially translated script and then adapting it to fit within the time limits provided for a certain scene. And how you go about doing that. And there's industry practices in there that differ. So getting back to the idea of what is language, how does it work, you have to understand that language inherently has to involve more than one person at the very, very beginning, right? If I am just leaving notes for myself, number one, that can all be internal monologue. I don't need a series of sounds or a series of markings in order to leave notes for myself. They don't have to be comprehensible by any other party. It can just be my own thoughts. Yo, what up? Can you still see Mount Fuji? I can't, but once we get out to the river, we'll be able to see it again. Let me see if I missed anything. Vending machines. Yeah, we'll review a vending machine. Max value. Coin laundry. Should be able to see more of the mountains once we get to the river, which is the main, that'll be the second point that we get to. Midpoint, basically. Yeah, very early morning in Japan. So, back to the technical rant. Because language inherently has to involve, at a minimum, two people, right? there has to be what's called an intersubjective consensus. So that is, if we have a sound that represents some internal monologue, some internal meaning, right? So in English, we might have a sound, or we do have a sound, yes, that represents an intersubjectively defined, that is, between two people, at least two people have come to an agreement as to what that sound represents for our shared internal monologue, which is assent. You know, we're agreeing. That's what yes means, in some sense. Now, that language, that sound varies across, you know, a whole bunch of different languages, but all languages have some sort of agreed upon sound system that represents that meaning, right? Yo, what up? Is it early morning or afternoon? It's very early morning. It's like, I think 7 a.m. Sunrise is over there. I'll blind you guys. And so, language grew up and is pretty heavily biological for humans too. So we have a biological predisposition to using sounds or symbols to create shared meaning. But, and this is the real point that a lot of people miss, that means that inherently what language is doing is not, language is not the meaning itself, it's a representation of the meaning which is purely internal. You have to think before you can speak, right? So fundamentally there is some ineffable, that is undescribable, internal concept of language before you can put it to paper or before you can put it to sound. You have to have some kind of idea that you want to share. And that idea doesn't have any sound associated. It doesn't have any language associated. We just give it language, right? Now the sun is setting right now. You can see it. Sure. And this is all a very, very roundabout way of saying when you translate, what you're translating isn't the words, it's the meaning. And this is where people get tripped up. So to give an example, in Japanese, right, there's the English word yes and the Japanese word hai, but they don't mean the same thing. They're both approximations of that internal meaning. So even in English, the way that you say yes, like yes, 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 those different ways of saying it approximate different meanings that are purely internal and aren't covered by just the word. And in the same way, the Japanese word hai or hai, you know, covers a different range of meanings. So when people say just translate it literally, there's no way to do that. It's not possible. There is no one-to-one meaning. A really good example of this that I'll probably bring up on Kirsch's stream again. I think you can see Fuji here. Recently. So if you guys have watched... exactly. Yes, yes, or, you know, hi, hi is kind of like dismissive, right? But a really good example of this recently, if you guys have watched Fairen, or however they say it in English, you know, the elf demons, that whole thing. And this is spoilers if you haven't seen it, but I'm pretty sure most people have, right? At this point, or at least they're familiar with the memes. So there's a very famous scene in that, yeah, free run, or yeah, right? So there's a very famous scene in that where Freerun tells Aura to kill herself. But it's interesting because the Japanese that she uses for that, how long do you mute? It's not that big of a spoiler. Okay, wave it when I'm done spoiling. All right, I'll wave when I'm done. So the Japanese in that scene is not jisatsu, which is the typical word for kill yourself. It's jigai, which is a different meaning, and it specifically covers the idea of using your own hands or your own body to harm yourself to the point of death, which is really important nuance for that scene because, the demons are super literal. They take everything very literally. So if she had said, "Aora jisatsu shiro," instead of "Aora jigai shiro," then she could have taken that to be like, explode, blow yourself up, killing everyone around you and yourself. That would have been covered by that meaning, right? But by saying jigai, it's exclusive. It means just yourself. And doesn't cover anything else. So by saying jigai shiro instead of jisatsu shiro, it's a very different meaning. But when we go to translate that into English, right? When we translate that into English, there's not really a good way to change that from kill yourself to kill yourself using only your hands to harm your body to the point of death. So there's a trade-off, right? What's the impact lost by leaving it as kill yourself versus changing it into something like take your own life? Is it worth it to adapt that scene in a different way that might be a little bit clunkier compared to the impact of having it be kill yourself, right? So I'm not prepared to make a statement on that one way or the other. I think probably kill yourself is fine just because it's very impactful. But I might have been open to the argument of saying like take your own life instead, right? Mucho texto, for sure. But that's what I'm saying is, in Japanese, there are different ways to communicate that meaning that are not purely textual. Jigai and jisatsu are 2 syllables each, but kill yourself versus take your own life are much longer. So it's hard to say, would that scene have been better with more or less text? It's difficult, right? Yeah, and what fits the lip sync? Well, this is even outside of the idea of dubs, right? So that's a whole different ballgame. But just the fact that there is no quote-unquote literal translation there. Also, I'm done spoiling that patch. You can unmute. So there's like a million trade-offs that you can make, right? So would this particular line fit a character better? Would this particular line, maintain a unique character voice? Because the issue, I'm not saying machine translation is completely worthless or that AI will never approach the level of humans one way or the other. I don't think that it's at that point now, right? But if, for example, you were to just completely replace all current translators with machine translation, you would absolutely lose unique character voices. Yeah, there's definitely more room to work in anime, especially, like the voice acting provides a huge range of emotion versus novels. But there's also something to be said for just running into stilted language and how that can affect the author's intent, right? So when people say it's not your job to change what the author wrote, that's very true. And I agree with that completely. But if the author didn't write it in a stilted manner, then doing a machine translation that provides the text in a stilted manner is still changing the author's intent. Because if they wrote a very nice poem, but you just translate it quote unquote directly, then you're taking what they wrote, which may have been a very flowery poem, and changing it into something that reads very dry, which is not good. There's a really good example of that in Final Fantasy. I'll bring that up on the stream as well, but there's a lot of examples of people who, take flowery language and reduce it to very, boring language. And I think that that is also an issue, right? It's not just a matter of, Reddit speak and memes or introducing leftist political takes and stuff, all of which I, of course, completely disagree with. Extremely strongly, too. Don't get me wrong. I think the Lukua line, geez, my voice is cracking today. I think the Lukua line in Dragon Maid is egregious and really, 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 really wrong. Like, deeply, deeply insulting. And it should never have happened. But that doesn't mean that's the only issue. And that doesn't mean that switching to machine translations would alleviate that problem. Now we're at the river. It's running pretty dry here. Give me a second, I'm gonna put on a glove. My hand's getting cold. I'm gonna point you guys this way. We're walking up that way to a nature park. That's the wrong glove. Sun's gonna be at our back though. That's better. It's not just that it's cringe, right? Like, don't get me wrong, it is cringe. Let me see if I missed anything. I think the problem is we've been beaten down by bad localization. Yeah. Arabian Nights, agreed. Bad faith actors for so long. But here's the thing. You say that, and I agree. It's, there are a lot of bad faith actors. But, personally, and if you want my hot take on this, also, wow, I really want to hike up those mountains. I wish I had internet up there. There's Fuji. If you want my hot take on this, right? It's like, I would consider somebody like Cozy Fox a million times worse. Unironically, a million times worse than any of the political stuff that gets added in. I can understand, I don't agree with, but I can understand how you could come to that point of view, right? So let's say, like, if I'm going to make a fair argument here, and I will steel man the Lukua Dragon Maid translation line. To be 100% clear, I don't agree with it, right? I think it's wrong, and I think it was extremely wrong, and I think it was done in bad faith, and I think that that line should have never happened for a million reasons I'll go into. But if I'm going to steel man that argument, right? You take that character, you take that line, and you say, right. So Lukua is talking about needing to cover up. She's getting stares in public. She feels like she needs to cover up. I have 24 syllables to work with this line. My read of this character is such that I think that this is a line that she would say. If that's your reasoning, that's fine. I think you're completely and utterly wrong, right? Like 100%, I think you're completely wrong, and I think that worldview is toxic and frankly disgusting. But if that's genuinely how you read that character, and that's genuinely how that line came across, as a localization, I can understand how you got to that point. Now, that's a long preamble to say, if you look at some of the translations for Final Fantasy, whichever one's the online one, I always forget the number. There is no, like Breath of the Wild or Pikmin 2 or, I'm just trying to think, or Persona 5 maybe a little bit, but let's say Breath of the Wild, right? Yeah, 15. There are changes in Final Fantasy 15 and Breath of the Wild that simply cannot be a result of misunderstanding a character. They're wholesale rewrites. They change the tone, they change the text, they change the context of scenes in a way that can only be done if you're not respecting, 14, sorry, Roman numerals, 14. In a way that could only be done if you don't respect the content at all, right? If you're saying, well, actually, I know better. I know Latin, shut up. I got very minor dyslexia, so I flip stuff in my head a lot, right? But those changes, so it's like a good example is Breath of the Wild. The original Breath of the Wild had all of the quests and all of the journal entries in like the codex. They were all written in first person, as if Link was writing them, right? And also a lot of the cutscenes, like Urbosa, is completely differently characterized in Breath of the Wild in the Japanese versus the English. Like, she's very caring, she's very understanding of Zelda, she doesn't like yell at Zelda or anything like that. And they changed her to just be kind of like gruff and rude for no reason. Because they're like, oh, she's big and strong, so she must be gruff and rude. Like, that to me is a much, much, much worse thing to do than having some, dumb shit leftist put in their stupid worldview because they can only see characters through that lens. Like, if you genuinely, she's way more motherly. Like, way more. She's like a genuinely good friend to Zelda and doesn't berate her at all. Like, if you can genuinely only see things through a feminist lens, I think that's unfortunate, and I think you have made many mistakes, but I can understand how that would lead you to make that translation error. And you could even say, like, you are still making a good faith attempt to translate what you understood the character to be. But there's no excuse, none, for taking the first-person perspective of Link in the quest markers and the quest stuff for Breath of the Wild and getting rid of it. There's no excuse for that. You've just removed a ton of characterization from the game. I think like the final quest for actually finding Zelda, in that after you restore all the memories and are going to the true ending, is like written from Link's perspective and mentions how he wants to go see her. Like, man, my voice is really cracking today. How he is like desperately struggling to go rescue her. And in the English, it's just like, okay, you've found all the memories, time to go rescue Zelda. That's it. He's not allowed to talk. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And it's clear that Breath of the Wild was meant to give way more characterization to Link. Like half of the flashbacks, involve Link taking a very active role in things. And they just kind of erased that. Oh yeah. I mean, if we want to talk about Fire Emblem, like, I would say like the two types of issues that we've talked about so far are, and to be clear, I don't think that the Dragon Maid translator was acting in good faith. I don't believe that she really believes that that line is accurate. I think she was pushing an agenda. I think that's I would say that's pretty obvious. Like, I was giving her the Steelman treatment, right? So the best faith possible interpretation of that choice. But the two types of what I would call mistranslations we've talked about are like really crappy removing emotion, removing concepts because you're too stupid to understand them or you think you know better. Nintendo Treehouse is just on a whole different level. I have nothing but spite and disdain for Treehouse. Like, they're garbage. I don't think they've ever put out anything of worth. Ever. Yeah, it's like, I think their addition, it's hubris, right? There's a whole lot of, cultural imperialism. If you go back, I'm sure some of you guys, I don't know how old most people are in here, but some of you guys probably remember back in the day, Tech TV, G4, all those guys, the game review scene in the early 2000s. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Yeah. Like if you guys remember G4, like they showed absolute disdain for JRPGs. I mean, hell, even the term JRPG is kind of insulting by itself, right? Oh, it's not an RPG, it's a JRPG, as if that's some meaningful difference. And so many of those games had their stories butchered by incompetent or overzealous translators who thought that they were doing the Japanese a favor by punching up their bad dialogue, right? Another example is like Elden Ring. The translation for Ranni's ending is completely different than it is in the Japanese. It's just wrong. Like, it's not even close to right. Another thing is the obsession with adding ye olde English to JRPG settings. So I'm not sure if you guys know this, but Final Fantasy XIV has almost no ye olde English equivalent in it for the Japanese, like none. There is ye olde English in Japanese, so like Spice and Wolf is a good example. Horo speaks in a kind of sing-songy old style. Yeah, Ghostwire Tokyo's all property is theft kid. That's just some commie nonsense, right? That's just commie bullshit. And to be honest, that's easier to call out, right? It is far easier to call out come on, dude, that's just some commie bullshit, cut the crap. But if you look at Final Fantasy XIV, the ilms and malms and yalms and shit, none of that's in the Japanese. They just use meters. I think, I'm going to say his name wrong, but Uringer, that guy, he's the only one who speaks in a kind of ye olde English kind of way. Everyone else just kind of talks normal. Uber danger, yeah. I'm gonna switch arms. My arm's getting tired. We're almost there though. There's like a cool bridge at this park too. At least that's what I've seen. You can see like this mountain ridge. Completely unrelated, but like, I really want to get Starlink internet that they're opening up for cell phones so that I could stream like a whole hike up one of those. Or like all of them, really. Yeah. Uriunger, however you say it. I'm not sure. I'd have to see the Japanese, ironically. I think I could just keep walking straight from here. Let me check my map real quick. Yeah, we're good. Just keep walking straight. Oh, check it out. Let's hit up a rural vending machine review real quick. What do we got? Okay, we got tea, water, sparkling grape, Monster, some kind of suspicious energy drink. We got red bean, corn in a can. That's a good sign. Cocoa, green tea, coffee. What are you feeling? I'm feeling a light 6. Yeah. We'll go 6.5. Let me see if I can miss some comments here. It's hard to read you guys in the sun. Let me turn off to the side here for a second. I think I missed some good comments from you guys. If we don't buy that canned corn, I'm not buying the canned corn. Yeah, the other translation is pretty one-to-one. Like, isekai sensation. Yeah, so the biggest thing is like there's a difference between translations that are just bad and translations that actively disrespect the source material. Like, I personally have included memes in translation when it makes sense. Very recently, I won't say what I was working on, but there was literally a character that the dialogue included like a W, so like the laugh, right? The character said like, "Hai rompa," W. And so I translated that as wrecked, lol. Like R-E-K-T, R-E-K-T LOL. Because that's the equivalent. So there's definitely a place for equivalent translations. Let me turn up my brightness on the screen. I can't see shit. I hope I didn't just zoom in. There we go. Oh, that's much better. Yeah. You guys know the WWWs, right? So there's, or like Steins Gate is the classic example. You know, the Nurupok ga scene. That's a 2chan meme. That's not going to make any sense to somebody in English. And so the core point of a translation is to provide the audience that is reading it the same experience as if it was originally written in their target language, which is insanely difficult. Like, insanely difficult. And so there's like a lot of people who are saying, oh, well, just translate it directly and then have a translator's note. But again, that is going outside of the author's intent. You didn't translate it, sorry to shatter your fragile male ego. No, I didn't translate it that. I didn't. Sorry to shatter your fragile male ego, but I didn't. Yeah, there's a ton of issues with Final Fantasy XIV. Normally I would say like, I don't want to single out any specific person because it's an industry-wide problem, but I hate Koji Fox, right? I think he is a fucking blight on the industry. And the fact that he's treated with such respect is really, really sad and disappointing. Like, it is genuinely sad that people say, oh, you know, Koji Fox is great. He's such a cool guy. I think he's an asshole. Like, the level of hubris and disrespect you have to think that your ideas should be inserted into the game, and like your terrible puns, like all the quest puns, none of those are in the game. Does this happen for more technical translations, business speak textbook? No. It doesn't. Nope. And it's because, like, I'm gonna be real with you guys. I make way more, and I don't make a lot of money, to be clear. But I make way more than a translator in Japan would. It is a very shittily paid position, and it is occupied almost exclusively by weird nerds who feel like a sense of entitlement to the work, right? The types of translation that I do, there's not room for flowery language or misinterpreting things. To be 100%, I don't do document or text or technical translation. I have in the past done some. I've translated business proposals. I've translated some contracting information, but the majority of the work that I do is it's more on the side of business meetings. So a lot of times I do interpretation for like a CEO, or I'll be in charge of translating or really interpreting client information from a client to the English side, or from our side to the Japanese side, or like giving presentations in Japanese, that sort of thing. I don't do manga translation. I don't do anime translation. Not as a job anyway. I wouldn't say the only winning, like, I think that's kind of defeatist. It's kind of, and I think that's kind of ridiculous, right? Like the idea that, because other languages don't have this issue. Right? The German translations of Final Fantasy XIV don't have the issues that the English ones do. They just don't. It's this kind of special snowflake, like, ooh, it's English, so it's important kind of attitude, which is very, you know, culturally imperialist. It's like, oh, it's the English, so it's official. It's not. Oh, there's the cool bridge in the... Almost there. I'm sniffling. So I think it's perfectly reasonable for people to, and I do applaud people saying, like, we need better translations, people should not be accepting this. That's for sure a good thing. But I think that the argumentation around the issue could serve to be a little more nuanced, right? Just saying like, localizers get out, or you're all going to be replaced by AI, or just translate it directly. These are not good arguments. They make you very easy to take down by these people, because as much as you may you know, hated, many of them, or I would say most of them, do speak Japanese, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to translate in the first place. So you're going up against people who do know the language. And so you're arguing from a place of ignorance. That's not to say you're not right. You're definitely right. Trust me, you're right to be upset. Yeah. Extreme points and not a lot of nuance, but that's true. But it's like, you need to take a holistic view of the issue and break down what the argument is, right? The argument is not, you are inserting your woke ideology into anime and we won't stand for it. The argument is, you are substantively changing what the author intended to write, and that is unacceptable in any situation. That's the argument. Right, she admitted she doesn't understand Japanese, but she's not a translator. She's a script adapter. So the argument isn't, well, you don't know Japanese. She doesn't need to. Script adaptators don't need to know Japanese. They take the translated version and adapt that into a spoken version that can then be recorded for the dub, right? So when you say, well, you don't know Japanese, that's not a gotcha. The issue is that she took the originally adapted line and then substantively changed the meaning of it such that it no longer matches the original translation. That's the issue. She went over what she should be doing responsibly with that script. Like, even in my workflow, I always have somebody proofread, and there will always be changes made to a native English sentence by another native English speaker who doesn't necessarily know Japanese. But when they make those suggestions, like when I have somebody proofread my work, no, that's a highway. There's some chickens over there. I'm gonna take a quick break because I've been walking and talking. But we're gonna go to that suspension bridge. But, so like when I make no, I'm saying you absolutely should learn Japanese. Like, don't get me wrong. The best way to enjoy Japanese media is to just learn Japanese and be native. You'll have the best experience, right? Very clearly. But that doesn't mean, like, that's not realistic for everyone. Everyone who likes anime is not going to learn Japanese. Like, that's just a fact. We don't expect everyone who watches Hollywood movies to learn English. That doesn't mean that the answer is to just give up on translation completely. You shouldn't need to learn Japanese to enjoy anime. The idea that's like, well, you don't deserve a good translation, just learn Japanese. Like, that's bullshit, obviously. But let me double check where. So I'm not sure which side of the river I should be on for this. 1 second. Do I need to cross over? Yeah, I gotta cross the bridge. But for example, when I'm proofreading something, that's kind of a nice view. Or when I have somebody proofread my translation, that person is not always a Japanese speaker. In fact, most of the time they're not. Most of the time it's just another native English speaker who is reading over what I've written to make sure that it makes sense, it reads well in English. Like, those are real concerns. So when I do that, that person doesn't need to know Japanese, like, at all. And that's not an issue, because what happens is, if sometimes I'll include like stilted grammar, for example, and the proofreader will come back to me and say, hey, this grammar's stilted, here's my suggestion to change it. And then what I'll do is, I'll either say, oh, that's a good catch, yeah, my grammar was bad there. Or I'll say, actually, in the original Japanese, this character is speaking its stilted grammar, so I want to maintain that, so we're going to keep it. And then they'll say, oh, okay, right? So there's always a back and forth between the proofer and the translator to make sure that what you're translating fits the point of the Japanese. So in that situation with Dragon Maid, the proofer, or the adapter, in the case of a dub, just decided that they were going to read it that way. And that's wrong. Oh yeah. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's a big insular club, right? It's the same thing with like the English dub actor scene. They're all friends with each other because it's low paid, low skill entry, low, so they're all friends. And so they all have each other's backs. And unfortunately, Japan really doesn't get that level of unprofessionalism. You see this a lot, like the other day, well, not the other day, last summer, I went to the, I don't know if you guys know Tomo-chan. Tomo-chan wa onna no ko. Tomo-chan is a girl. That anime and manga I'm a huge fan of, obviously. I went to kind of like a live event, and the voice actors were there. I always forget her name. I think it's Takahashi is her last name. Rei. It's the same voice actor who does Mega Man, right? So they were all there doing the live show. And Tomo-chan had a very significant following in the West, right? So it was very popular. Let me see. Is there a way to get across the people in charge? Is it Takahashi? I think it is Rei Takahashi. Is there a way to get across? Man, if you figure one out, right? It's bleak. Japanese business practices are a whole different topic. But, oh look, check it out, there's like a crane just right up there. Can you guys see that? That guy. All right, I got distracted by the burb. There he goes. Yeah, she's great. But they did a live show, and the voice actors are insanely good. Like absolutely insanely good. But unfortunately, there was like a message from the English dub actors, and we had to sit there and listen to it. And they were so unprofessional, it was insane. Like just kind of like gushing like random nerds at an anime convention, like not taking it seriously. Not to mention like the voice work is terrible. Like I don't care about being rude about that. I just don't give a shit. It's bad. Like, it's just bad. And if you compare, like, that level of entitlement is insane to me. It's like, you would never expect, like, the dub actor for Tom Cruise in India to, like, expect to be up on a stage at a premiere and give his speech about how much he loves Mission Impossible, right? Like, that just wouldn't happen. But when it's English, people just kind of assume that it's on the same level of quality, right? So, and the Japanese don't understand, they love America, they're great. And so they're like, oh, this is awesome. They love our work, they want to be a part of it. What could be better? And so they don't see anything wrong with it because they don't speak English. And I'm sure some of them can tell that it's not good. But they would never say that because they're too professional. But I'm not too professional. I'll say it. They're shit. They are dog shit garbage. It's funny that, geez, I always forget her actual name. What's her name in the show? Cotton Candy. Carol, that's it. Carol's voice actor is bilingual, Japanese native, but she also speaks English. Yeah. A lot of the Western industry seems to think that the goal is to get to America when it's really not. Yeah, I agree. Wait. All right, here's a map. How do we get to the bridge? Where are we? We're here. All right, so there'll be a turn and we can get to the bridge. Cool. Goal is to climb the bridge. Yeah, and so she was actually good in English. She was better in English than the English voice actors. Yeah, I'm not saying dubs have to be bad. They don't have to be, but they don't get real voice actors. You know, like, if you got Mark Hamill and J.K. Simmons to do voices, I'm sure they would be good. But they don't, because they're expensive. I think that anime should not have dubs, just in general. I've heard the German dubs are good, or at least better. But I will always make the argument that a dub necessarily loses a quality of the original, because the character who is cast in the original doesn't matter the language. Like, I wouldn't listen to a Japanese dub of an American movie. Or an English dub of a French movie. It doesn't matter. Because the original is still the author's intent. It might be different, yeah, but it's really hard to say. Let me take this glove off, it's getting warm. Yeah, well, Miyazaki had a really, really bad experience with the American industry when they were doing dubs of his films. But again, I mean, say what you want about Robert Pattinson. I'm sure he played his heart out in Boy and the Heron, but I don't think it's very good. Just watch the original. There are some cases for dubs, right? Somebody I know has very poor eyesight. Not that he's blind, but he can't read subtitles and watch anime at the same time, right? And so that's very unfortunate. And I feel bad, and you know, it's understandable that he wouldn't want a dub. That's fine. The issue is less that the dub exists and more the idea that it's on the same footing as the original. Yeah, they butchered the shit out of Nazca. So it's this idea that the dub shares equal footing with the original, when it very clearly does not. It's not the same. The subtitled version, even the subtitled version is it's meeting in the middle. There will still be some nuance lost, obviously. I'm surprised we still have good signal out here. So, basically, when I go on Kirsch's stream, once she announces it, by the way, don't go spreading anything until she makes the announcement. This is kind of like a super secret thing before she announces it. It's not set in stone, but I'll basically be bringing up a ton of examples of really bad translations across the board, and not just the political ones. Wait, hold up, Kirsch? Yeah, Pippa's friend Kirsch. I mentioned it at the beginning of the stream, but we were talking in DMs a little bit about coming onto her stream next week. It hasn't been set in stone yet, though. So don't go saying it's set in stone yet. Yeah, matching regional accents is very hard. Everybody defaulting to Southern for Osaka is kind of like it's all right, but it's hard. Yeah, I like Kirsch a lot. She's based. I'll have to tell her that I'm still waiting to do the interview on Pippa's stream, though. That should piss everybody off. If she would answer her damn DM, she never does. I think we can get up on the bridge. But yeah, so I've got examples from like Valkyria Chronicles to Pikmin to just a shit ton of Final Fantasy. Like a lot of Final Fantasy. I probably need to get some more examples of manga, but to be honest, like I haven't read a lot of official English releases. Just because I don't have to. But I'm sure there's examples. Oh geez. Looks like I still have to go up and around. At least walking back will be easy. I'll be downhill. Getting my exercise in for today. Nah, why would I have a pulp model? That would be very weird. You play The World Ends With You. I love The World Ends With You. But yeah, the meme speak in that game is very bad. And I'm walking directly into the sun. Yeah, but a VTuber model ever would be very weird for me, considering I'm a man. I don't want to do that. Yeah, I agree. I would take a half-assed translation over their own little fanfic springboard. It's this idea that like you saw it in Harvest Moon too, or Rune Factory, where it's like the concept of fandom, right? To go off on a completely different tangent. Japanese dubbing of American media, terrible. Just awful. It's bad. I watched, I think it was, what did I watch? Gravity, and I watched one other one. Deadpool 2 in Japanese theaters. Not the dub, but the subtitles are the dub. It's the same script. And they just cut out basically everything. Like none of the jokes land. They don't make any sense, so they just kind of ignore them. But Japan translates from a place of ignorance. They don't translate from a place of malice or trying to improve things. I don't think we can see Fuji from here. Probably too close to the other mountains. There's nobody here though. Yeah. But like, to go off on a tangent, let me try and remember my tangent. I gotta get on my tangent juice. Give me a second, I'm trying to remember my tangent. What was I talking about? Crap. You made me lose my tangent. Fandom, that's it. Fandom, yeah. A lot of these issues spring from the concept of fandom. here's the tangent I was going to go on. If you guys remember Adventure Time, way, way back when it was originally airing, very simple concept. Lots of little details, lots of cool stuff, but fundamentally a very simple concept. You have Finn, you have Jake the dog, you have the Land of Ooh, you have Princess Bubblegum, you have Ice King. Those are the main characters. They have wacky adventures. A lot of the humor is pretty subversive. You know, things kind of don't go how you would expect them to go. And that's it. That's the show, right? I think it went on for about 4 seasons or so. Wow, it is really bright. Let's go on the bridge. Yeah, neat little non-standard fantasy, right? So then what happens? Wait, this is cool though. I'm gonna avoid filming this guy. Ohayou gozaimasu. Neat little non-standard fantasy, right? Goes on for a while. Lots of little cool references, lots of little things like Magic Man. Yeah, this is a nice bridge spot, right? And all that was kind of left well enough alone. That's just how it was. So what happens? Around season 4 or 5, I believe, after the first Lich arc, a whole bunch of people who are fans of the show started working on the show. And what do? Well, they take the content that they like and they start expanding on it. Well, my favorite character is Magic Man, so he needs a backstory. I want to know more about his backstory and I want to write it. So they do that. They start taking Finn. They start, honing in on the lore, the drama, the character backstories and things like that. And they take the show from what it was and they turn it into fan fiction, literally. And what does that do to the show? Same thing that happened with Rick and Morty, right? The whole point of Rick and Morty was Rick is an asshole. He will always be an asshole. He does not care about Morty at all. That's the joke. Like, that's literally the joke. That's the punchline to every episode. But when the fans get a hold of it, well, they decide, no, he has to have, he has to have a tragic backstory. He has to have, it has to be true. It can't be that he's just an asshole, right? And then it becomes, like Dan said, it becomes a show about itself. It becomes infinitely self-referential. And it's this entitlement attitude where you say, no. I know more about the show than the creators do. If you look at what, C.H. Greenblatt did when he was given full reign, right? Yeah. Well, of course they made Finn a jerk to Flame Princess. Finn is, to get political, Finn is a man. He can't be a pure hero, obviously. That's bad. Yeah, fans in the West feel a sense of ownership. They have identity wrapped up in the media that they consume. And I realize I'm saying this as somebody who was drawn into a manga, but I didn't badger. I didn't assume I knew best for the series or anything like that. All of my interactions were just, I'm a huge fan. And then, of course, Okayada was the first one to suggest putting people into it, right? So I didn't even say, hey, I should be into it. I just said, oh, you're letting people get in? I want to get in, right? So just to cover my own ass there. But yeah, so it's a combo of fan takeover. Yeah, and they're not punished for it because they form these little insular communities, right? Yeah, it's all part of Finn's arc of growing up. But if you look at Finn originally, in the first seasons, he didn't have these glaring, horrific character flaws. They had to introduce them. They had to make him an asshole, right? which is a long tangent to get to the point of like fandom itself is toxic, in my opinion. The idea of being a part of a quote unquote fandom. Let's see if I can keep, I think I should still have internet over here. Let me know if I drop out. But like Japanese fans of media do not, in general, try to leave their stamp on what they like. Like doujinshi, comiket, that stuff has its place, but it's never like, you should do this. Yeah, exactly. Oh God, stairs. Let's go. I don't even know where we are now. That's cool. Yeah. Well, you take somebody like Y-san from Chiba, right? My personal inspiration. I'm off the grid. I don't have a social security number for Roy. Yeah, like hell of a boss. Or like modern cartoons, right? They are built from the start now, like from the get-go, to just be all about the lore, right? Nobody cares about the show. They just want to know the lore, the backstory. They introduce a bunch of mystery box shit so that you're invested in what happens next. It's not about the show. It's about the show. The show is about itself. Yeah, I agree. I tend to agree with that. So like, the most obsessive type person would be like Y-san from Chiba, who wrote 1 million postcards, almost literally. But that was something that was sanctioned by the manga author. He didn't do it just because. And it's really sad because I love lore. Like the backstory stuff, I think all that stuff is cool. But then it becomes about not writing good lore, but just writing for the sake of expanding on everything. Magic Man needs a backstory. Marceline needs a backstory. Ice King needs 7 backstories. Jake can't just be a magical dog. He has to be like a skin suit wearing alien thing, right? It can't just be what it is. It has, yeah, it's fan fodder. Cool, black van, cool. Yeah, Jake has to have weird kids that are very clearly not just fan inserts, right? They're not my OC. Let's see what we got. Shiroizumi Temple. 10 minutes that way. All right. Ooh. Oh, that's where this is. Interesting. There's a mountain ridge route that you can hike up through here. If I had more time, I'd do that. And if I didn't know, I was going to lose internet connection there for sure. Oh shit, wild hogs. Hey, what do we got? Tracks, deer, tanuki, rabbits, badgers, wild hogs, cats. Yeah, so people who feel like a weird ownership over stuff, right? And that extends, but and to circle back around, that extends back to the idea of translation. I hope I don't lose signal here, right? So you have this group of people who's already kind of obsessive, right? They're already kind of like touchy-feely about their stuff. This is my thing, right? And so they take that kind of obsessive quality, and then the really dedicated ones, and I use dedicated as pejorative, right? That's an insult. There's going to be like some percentage of them who actually make it, right? And learn Japanese or whatever, and become involved in the process. And they feel that they understand the characters more than other people. And because they understand the characters more than other people, they have a right to change the characters. But they don't even consider it changing, right? What they're saying is, no, see, I understand the character, right? And because I understand the character, I'm in a unique place to give this character the voice that they deserve, which happens to be my voice, right? One of the biggest things that I do when I'm translating is I take my conceptions and my ideas out of it as much as I can, especially when I'm translating a character that I like. It's much harder. It's so much easier to translate a character that I don't really care about, because then you just read the words as they are, right? That's just, I don't care about this character, I don't care what they say. The temptation is always, man, I really like this character. Man, I really want to write them well, right? And so what happens is, and I can give you examples, like you'll run into this character that you really like, and you say, and maybe it's like a scene that you really like. And in that scene, the character says something, and you're like, hey, wait a second, that wasn't very good. And you go, huh? And you read it again, and you're like, did they really say that? I don't really like that. That's not how I would do it. I mean, wait, this character said that? But before they always said, right? And so then you get to that point where you're like, oh, okay, the author must have made a mistake. Or you just feel weird about it. But that's the most dangerous part, where you have to say, it doesn't matter if you think that the author made a mistake. I've found places where the author absolutely did make mistakes. There's, clear continuity issues or clear like dialogue issues. But it doesn't matter. I'm not the author. So you translate it how the author wrote it, even if you think that's like a dumb thing for that character to say. They shouldn't have said that. That's too fucking bad. Like, that's not your job. Right? You're there to translate it, not to improve it. And I can understand the very real temptation to make sure that the character is getting what they deserve, right? They deserve to have good lines. It's a very fine line to walk. And I'm sure I'm not perfect at it. I'm sure there have been times that I've translated things too, with too much of a stroke or pen, right? I'm sure it's happened. Please hold. Okay, we're back. That part of Japan is out of coverage. This is why I want Starlink internet. Hold on, we're not quite back. Oh, we're bleeding viewers, bros. Come back. I promise it's not dead. Please. Bros. We're not dead. We're not dead. Are we back? Hello? Oh, we're dying, bros. We're kind of back. Technical difficulties. Yeah, I turned around. We're going back whence we came. This is the issue. We're so back. We're so back. God, I want Starlink internet so bad. All right, we'll have to go the other way. We're out of the zone. It's the Wild West out there. Yeah, that's the issue. I checked the 4G map and it had this whole park as in, but this area that we just walked to might be out, so that's unfortunate. There is Starlink in Japan, but there's it's only they still don't have like mobile, like 2 cell phones yet. That's what they're working on. So you need like a local partner. But once they have that, like once they have a local partner in Japan, I don't care if it's like $100 a month or like even 150 a month. I'll pay for it. Because that means that we could take the stream and just like straight up walk up a mountain with it. And that would be the first, I think the first person for sure in Japan to live stream with Starlink internet like that anyway, which I totally want to do. Yeah, that I think Dan raises a very good point, which is the issue is that a lot of this stuff is being done behind the artist's back. Well, that's a cool forest. Wait, let me stand still for a second so it actually you can actually see and it's not all pixelated. A lot of these like script adapters and translators and stuff are quite literally doing it behind the author's back, and they take, so like here a good example is that one BL manga that everyone made a stink about on Twitter, right? Where the translator just assumed that the character in it was trans, and they clearly weren't. The author clearly didn't want to write it that way. The author likes gay dudes and femboys and stuff like that, which I don't care about. Not my cup of tea, not interested. But the translation assumed, and I'm sure that they had some conversation with the author, some surface level conversation. They're like, hey, we want to write it like this. So-and-so identifies as such and such. I'm sure that happened. But the author doesn't know English, right? So they're not going to know what that entails, what the person is suggesting. They're just going to think, this person is a professional. Yeah, I'm a localizer. I'm basically an author myself, you know. They're going to say, well, this person is a professional. They're hired by the company. Why would they do anything like change what I've written? That's not what they're hired to do, so why would they do that? And then the shock when they found out must have been pretty extreme, right? And it's very shocking to them because they don't expect that. They would never expect somebody to take their work and change it that way because it's not something that you do. What I would say that Japan does very poorly is they have very little respect for English as a language itself. So when they do translations it's Austin. Hey, what's up, dude? We're having fun out in the woods. We lost signal for a bit. Thanks for joining in. I think this is the most people we've had concurrently, so thank you very much. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, all that stuff. And then the viewer count drops to 0. But what Japan does very poorly is they have very, very low respect for English as a language, and they have very low proficiency. So Japan, the Japanese English instruction is very poor. But at the same time, many people assume that because they took X years of English, or they took, X courses, or they have such and such TOEFL score or whatever, that they are qualified to translate English. So to give you an example, where's the super chat button? Soon. We need, okay, real talk, we need 500 subs and a certain number of watch hours. When we hit 500 subs, by the way, I'm going to do a marathon stream in Tokyo, and I think the idea will be we'll visit every spot that I ever lived in Tokyo in like one stream. It'll be like 9 hours or something, just to get watch time, so we can enable monetization, right? So please do share and like and stuff. If we can get 300 subscribers today, that would be awesome. So if you haven't subscribed, please do. But to give you an example, one of my first jobs where I was doing some technical translation, I did this whole document, and it was a very boring job. It was like a tier 2 supplier for Honda back in Ohio. And I was working as a translator in inside sales, and it was awful. But I translated this whole document, right? All bunch of like parts lists, requirements, all sorts of, everything, whole document. And then I had a team member who was more senior, some Japanese lady. And so I gave her the document, I put my name on it, and then when we got to the presentation, or like the meeting where the document was being used, it looked like shit. She changed it. She changed like everything. And it was really worded poorly. It was garbage. Just trash. Hold on. We got some people I don't want to.
That's good.
Right? And so she just changed everything and left my name on it. She didn't even put her name on it. Because she just assumed, well, she's a senior, she's higher level than me, so obviously she'll correct my mistakes. And so we got there, and it was garbage. And that's what you run into. You run into higher ups in Japan who think they know better and will make changes because, well, I have an 850 TOEFL score, so obviously I know English, but they can't speak it. And so they have very little tolerance for anyone who's below them on the social hierarchy to do any sort of translation. They'll assume that you're wrong, right? It was very annoying. That's where Japan messes up. They assume that, hierarchy equals competence. But while I can't say for sure they were doing it out of malice, I don't think she was doing it because she didn't like me, or because, any petty reason like that. I think it was literally just, I'm the senior, I know better, I should change it, right? Yeah, office Japanese culture is toxic as hell. It's awful. But what they don't have is they don't have somebody who is a professional, who is competent but not, how would I describe this? Competent but not sincere. Or maybe sincere is the wrong word. Competent but not professional? Yeah. Competent but not professional. Yo, what up? Kibo. So you don't run into these people who are making changes because they genuinely think they're improving the script. That doesn't happen. Yeah, competent but not professional. That just doesn't happen. At least not in my experience. So when you run into this culture mismatch, where, don't get me wrong, like Japanese people are massive fans of things, massive fans, right? They go all out, they do all sorts of stuff, but they never, not never, but it's very rare for them to cross the line of conduct which you would consider acceptable. Like Comic Head is a good example, right? There aren't panel discussions at Comic Head. If there are, they're from corporations who are presenting something new. They don't have like what I thought about Kimono Friends, or what did Die Buster or Gurren Lagann mean to me, right? That's just not part of it. You're there to consume the media. You can love it, and you can definitely say like it affected you, but no one cares. Like that's not part of it, right? That's not the point. Yeah, it's a thing. Let's see. Wait, there's a good shot. Thumbnail. I'll grab that. Let's see if we can walk this way a little bit and go down and maybe see Fuji. I'm gonna start walking back anyway. It's really warm now. Yeah. Why Berserk saved me from going to a zoo and getting depressed. Yeah, it's not really like that. You can see a lot of this with how like Japanese people, and this is very funny coming from me who's putting my face on the screen of everything here, right? But if you go to like a lot of Japanese streams, they'll never show their face, right? You'll never hear their own voice talking. Some of it is just being shy or like not wanting to put their face out there. But a lot of Japanese VTubers or streamers and things will just use text-to-speech for everything. Or they won't show their face in the corner. It's not very common because they don't put themselves in there a lot. Now, I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not saying, that's so much better, like a better way of doing things, anything like that. If anything, obviously I'm doing a live stream. I enjoy talking and giving my opinions and showing my face. I'm not against it. I'm just saying there's a culture mismatch there where people don't see it the same way. And because they don't see it the same way, there's a lot of assumptions that get made. Like at that at the Tomo-chan event that I went to, you could tell that the comments that people were giving about it from the Japanese side were far more about the work itself, how much they liked the characters, how much the story resonated with them. But they would never say, here's how the story affected me. It was more just like, I love these characters, I love the way that they talk, I love the scenario, the situations, everything about it, right? But then when the English VAs came on, it was like, oh, I resonate so much with this story. I love everything about the characters. She's so like me, everything about like that, right? They identify with the characters rather than saying that the story resonated with them. If you can see the difference there. Yeah. It's the artist and the art. They don't make it about themselves. Like, if you hear Rei Takahashi talk about Megumin, she doesn't say like, the struggles that Megumin goes through, or that kind of character is so much like me. I was able to put so much of myself into that role. She says, the character that the author wrote is such a great character. I was very happy to be able to bring that character to life and give her a voice. And that's a very important distinction, right? There's a huge difference between putting yourself into a role and taking on the role yourself. Yeah, English. Yeah, that's a very good way to sum it up. English VAs say, I am the character, whereas the Japanese VAs say, I'm so happy I can bring this character to life. There's a huge difference. I mean, I'm not so sure it would be like social media, but it's just a difference of approach. It's a different way of doing things. And I will say in that instance, I do think the Japanese way is better because it's more professional. There's no issue, like, when people do ad-libs, it's because they're in character, like Kazuma's VA, right? I would say they're almost all quote-unquote method actors in that sense. So like Kazuma's VA, the ad-libs that he did were all because he was insanely in character the whole time. So when he's like, Kazuma dayo, when people say like, Kazuma, Kazuma, because he's so in character that he just interjects there because it makes sense. And then the author was like, oh, that's awesome, right? So it's a huge difference in terms of how they go about doing things. And I feel like I've walked into a very boring part of this area. Check it out, it's Japan, a 2-lane road and a sidewalk, let's go. Very cool area. 2-lane road pog. Can I get some pogs in the chat for 2-lane road? I would walk down there, but I feel like it's just some random field. It's bizarre seeing sidewalks. What, you think Japan doesn't have sidewalks? Of course Japan has sidewalks. Okay, this is cool. Big open field. I'm not gonna walk out into their field, but at least it's a big open area. Here we go. Nice rural Japan. Comfy. Just growing cabbages. I think those are cabbages. Maybe those are daikon. There's some broccoli. God, I want to go hike that mountain though. I really do. That would be the best. If we could keep signal all the way up to the top. Neat A-frame house? Yeah, there's a lot of those. Let me just check these. Uramachi. Yeah. Have a pog. Very poggers. Miyano Mamoru? I think, yeah, that was him. If I'm not mistaken. It's also winter, but it hasn't been cold at all this year. It's just been like really, really warm. I'm gonna start walking back. We'll probably play some Mahjong on Twitch later, I think. Maybe, depending on what Dan says. But yeah, so the discussion for like localization and translation, as far as the current debate raging on Twitter, I think that to sum it up, like fundamentally people are talking at cross purposes to each other, where the people in the industry who are doing a really shitty job can kind of maintain their high position because people who are arguing against them are not arguing to the core of the issue, right? At least not effectively. Yeah, so like the Dragon Maid lady, she's not a translator. She's a script adapter. So what she did was adapt a script that she was given from the translator. But what she did wrong was she overstepped her boundaries, right? She took what was given to her and injected more into the script than was there. That's the issue. And so when you're making these arguments online, it should always come down to the fundamental issue of you are distorting what the author intended to write. It doesn't matter if you think it should be punched up. It doesn't matter if you think that the line sounds better. And you shouldn't go around saying, oh, we just want a direct translation. Because like I talked about in the beginning of the stream, there's no such thing as a direct translation. And maybe I should reiterate that now that we have more people here. But like, I talked about kind of like a range of meanings, right? So, there is, before anything else, there is the idea of the intersubjective consensus of language, where words that I'm speaking to you right now have to originate inside my mind before they can be brought into the world. I have to be trying to communicate an idea. Nice Tolkien reference. I'm always referencing Tolkien. Always Tolkien. Always Tolkien about Tolkien. And so the particular language or the particular words. Oh, is there a difference between acceptable professionalism for foreigners in Japan versus locals? Absolutely. And that's a huge issue. It's a huge issue. 100% I am given way more leeway to act. Not that I take advantage of it all the time. There's certainly sometimes when I do. But the ways that I take advantage of it is more just like, how would I describe this without sounding like an asshole? Let me think. In negotiations, right? It's okay for me to make suggestions because like for my job, I'm not a translator. So for my job, I'm dealing with like business negotiations. So it's far more acceptable for me to like make a proposal. Yeah, like not doing after work drinking or like going home on time. Those kinds of things are not expected from me socially. So it's okay for me to do it, basically, right? But when I make proposals in Japanese, it's far more acceptable for me to say, to make more outrageous or more ambitious proposals than it would be for someone who's Japanese, right? They also don't expect me to have like perfect keigo. So when I bust out the keigo, they're like polite language, they're very impressed. Whereas if I was just Japanese, they would be like, what the fuck? What? Of course you speak keigo. Like, what's wrong with you? Right? They appreciate that you're trying. That's the thing. So it's far more lenient for someone who's foreign than it is for a native speaker. Far more. It's actually a big issue because when I first came to Japan, and I was still learning Japanese, right? Obviously you make mistakes, but they won't correct you. Like they won't tell you you're wrong. It's a huge problem because if you don't have native speakers telling you that you're wrong, you won't be able to improve. So I had to tell my friends, my Japanese friends, or even people I worked with, like, when I say something wrong, you need to stop me and like tell me I'm wrong. Otherwise I won't be able to improve. And so I like quite explicitly, I had to explain, like it doesn't help me. It's not, if anything, I had to explain like quite literally, like you're being rude if you don't stop me. Okay, another vending machine review. Middle of nowhere, near a quarry, just random crap. Let's see, we got Coca-Cola, but no Coke Zero, not good. Minute Maid, grape drink, regular Monster, poor selection of coffee, no lemon tea, but no good lemon drink. That's gonna be a 4. 4. I'm not getting the corn drink. I'm not doing it. 4 out of 10. Coffee. Nice view of the mountains from up here, though. I could see why so many people are out hiking today. It's like 50 degrees, middle of winter. Yeah, it's a very poor combination of, oh, those silly foreigners, they don't know any better, and isn't it cute that they're trying, plus, like Dan said, like sincerity culture. I think we should walk down this way. Trying not to stray too far away so I can actually go back to the dam. Maybe this is the wrong way? I don't know. I can get back to the station. Otherwise, it's going to take me like 2 hours to get home. No, this is the right way. Yeah. Get the Picari sweat. Can you do a small experiment? I mean, hit me. Is it like a question? I'd be interested to get some Japanese people in here. I really would like to eventually collab with some Japanese streamers or Japanese VTubers. Just to dunk on Pippa. That's my real goal. Anything else, I want to dunk on Pippa. Is this a dead end? I hope it's not a dead end. I don't think it's a dead end. Oh, where's everybody from? I mean, you don't have to answer if you don't want to. I'm from Ohio. I think most people are going to be from the States, generally speaking. At least that's what the YouTube analytics tell me. This is making you want to hike. Got to dunk on the rabbit. Bro, you got to dunk on the rabbit. Oh, you're going to Ohio in a couple of weeks? Sorry to hear that, man. Yeah, that's the thing. Ohio, did you know that more astronauts are from Ohio than any other state? Literally, that's true. It's because they want to get the hell away. With the esports company, oh man, that was so bad. I'm fine to talk about it. Didn't Guilty get kicked off, like hard? Yeah, we worked with I worked at Evo. Well, I volunteered to work at Evo. Like, how much of this is okay to share? So Egypt, Cairo, wow. Post Sphinx. Also, subscribe, hit it, slam the button, do it. But we helped out at Evo with a fighting game company that Guilty who was a fighting game player was working with. And they showed shocking lack of respect for the company. Like showing up to matches late, and we had to like run them down to like try and get them to show up to a match, that kind of stuff. It's like, this was in Las Vegas, but the Japanese company was not expecting this at all, right? Because she was signed, right? She's a signed player, so they just expected, to all act professional, obviously. Gozaimasu. Yeah, you can't be fired. Oh, did it drop? It might have. Wow, I picked a really boring place to walk. Jesus. Dropped a little bit, it's fine. All right, we're good. We're Gucci. Wow, okay, well, I mean, this was an experiment in picking a station I've never been to and walking around, so other than the bridge, this place has been pretty boring. We'll pick a better spot next time. Yeah, she got outed for being like a massive piece of shit later, but at the time, the Japanese company really did not know how to deal with her at all because she's supposed to be a professional. Oh yeah, hold on a second. I think I forgot. I have a friend to share. I always bring him. There we go. The boy. Gondola comes with, always. The lad. And he goes back in my pocket. Let's go, the boy. There he is. He is here. I should have done the bit. Oh, another vending machine. Let's go. Vending machine pog. We're gonna get another review. This time with gondola. Let's see. Okay. I muse a yogurt. Wait. What? Yogurto tisuto. Wait, yogurtist? Like I'm a yogurtist? What? What is that? What is a yogurtist? Yogurtotisto. Taste. Oh wait, that's taste. Wait, yogurt taste? Okay. Cool. Awesome. This is the issue with katakana. Like trying to figure out what the hell they're trying to say. Amino supplements, okay. Red Bull. Lemon tea, milk tea, apple sparkling. Fancy. Lemon, arginine, coffee, milk and cocoa. This drink is a carbonated supplement that is great for refreshing. Oh, very cool. Thank you. Thanks. Yogurt taste. This is getting a 7 out of 10 just for yogurt taste. Just for yogurt taste. Very good vending machine. Bro, katakana messes me up every time. Literally kanji is easier than katakana. You never have any idea like what katakana is supposed to be. It's just guessing what they meant. You're just guessing. You're just absolutely guessing. All right, we're just gonna review every single one of these as we talk about translation stuff. I think, we didn't talk about the Pikmin one. I think Pikmin is a good example too of something that like people didn't notice, because I saw Pikmin 2 got a re-release, I think on the Switch, like the Switch store, and people were complaining because they thought some of the items got changed because they were trying to make it woke. Let's see, what do we got? Tea, lemon, peach. There's the corn. Bro, I'm not doing it. I will not buy the corn. Potato milk. Sweet potato milk. It's probably pretty good. I'm not buying it. I won't do it. 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10. Yeah, so people were like complaining that like the translation was woke because I think they removed some lines about like one of the rings was like, you know, make your girlfriend or wife happy, or they were like names or something like that. It was like boyfriend's disaster or something like that, right? I think that was, somebody could correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, another one. Let's see. CC Lemon, let's go. Dude, you guys don't even understand. I will literally buy a CC Lemon right now. And it's only 110? Inflation got nothing on this. Give me that CC Lemon. Love me CC Lemon. CC Lemon is the best drink. If you come to Japan, drink CC Lemon. It's 28 lemons worth of vitamin C in Comic Sans font. It does not get better than that. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Based lemon. Boss coffee. Right? So they gave it, I think, a retranslate, and people were complaining about Pikmin 2. But if you go back and look at the Piclopedia for Pikmin 2, the original English, Louis, that's a lot of lemons, yeah. Louis' translations, like Olimar's translation is pretty much all right. They're all correct, which makes it even worse that Louis are so wrong. Mitsuwa. Yeah, I think Mitsuwa is pretty common, right? Let's get that. Oh, it's probably flat as hell out in the middle of nowhere. That's pretty good. It's a little flat. Is that the Doshington? Can you build a train out here, Dosh? You should be able to build a train out here. YouTube phenomenon, Dosh. He actually is, though. It's a fucked up thing. It's not fucked up, it's awesome. Just checking in. Yo, what up? I watched your, I did watch your video, Building to the End of the World in Factorio, even though I don't play it at all. That was a good video. The stuff that you do with like automating train creation is insane to me. Like actually insane. So good job. I would be surprised if that one doesn't hit 1 million. Very, very surprised if that doesn't hit 1 million. You picked a great time to tune into the stream. We're in a boring industrial park. At least the mountains are behind us. That's a nice shot. Very nice, very comfy. I'm gonna get sunburned. But the to go back to Pikmin 2, hard transition. A lot of Louis' translations for that one basically just add a bunch of fart humor and like poop jokes, and like his translations for or his lines in the Japanese are mostly just like, I think there's one, I'm not sure if it's the roller, it might be the roller enemy, where Olimar's is like, this is a mysterious creature, we're not even sure if it really exists. And then Louis is like, I've never heard of anybody eating this thing, I don't think it exists. Right? That's the joke. But in the English, it's like, consumption leads to thundering bellies and fiery emissions. It's like, cool, you just wanted to make it into a fart and a poop joke. Cool, thanks. And so you run into this situation where you have to look back at some of your favorite games, and it's not wrong to have liked them, for sure. Like, but the vision of those games was clearly compromised. Clearly. And so it's a big issue. I went back and I looked at, what was it? Oh yeah, Star Fox 64 was actually one that I was curious about, right? So, because I remember really loving Star Fox 64 as a kid, and it only recently occurred to me like, hey, wait, that game was originally in Japanese, wasn't it? That's a Japanese game. And to its credit, it's not that bad. It's really not that bad. There's some missing information like at the start, and the dialogue is a little bit better in English, but from what I saw, and it wasn't the whole game yet, but from what I saw, it's not too bad. It's really not too bad, which was surprising and good. I didn't look at the whole game. Some of it might be worse than others, for sure. But from what I saw, it was pretty good. So it's not all gloom and doom. Not all gloom and doom. Final Fantasy is a big issue, though. Oh, how different the Final Fantasy games are. My man. They're bad. They're real bad. They're really, 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 really bad. Really bad. Like really bad. Koji Fox is he's a real piece of shit. I don't like Koji Fox. Normally, I'm not one to be like, you know, fuck this guy in particular, you like that kind of thing. Man's out here on an electric scooter, right? Oh, the old Final Fantasy, man, Woosley did a fucking number on those. They, yeah, it's bad, man. Isn't Koji working directly at SE? No. If you look at his interviews, he says quite explicit, and I'll go into this on Kirsch's stream too, but if you look at his interviews, he says quite explicitly, he gets the script from them, does localizations, and adds content on the fly, and then argues back and forth with them about it, right? So he's been working at Square Enix for so long, he has tons of seniority. He can't be fired. And so when he talks to them about stuff, it's kind of just like they have to humor him. Right? So he localizes things on the fly and then adds in extra information later and then argues about it. Gozaimasu. Not to film this guy. So yeah, he does work with them, but no, he's not like a lore creator. And the way that you can know this is that if you look at the other translations, the French, the German, all of those, none of those follow the English translation. So you're stuck in this position where you have to say, well, the English version is quote unquote greenlit. But if that's the case and that his lore is accurate, then why isn't it added to any of the other translations? Why isn't it in any of the other languages? Right? Yeah, there are big story beats that are fucked up in Final Fantasy XIV. We have collected many of them. I won't spoil them because I know there's people who are still playing through the game, but there are many things that are wrong. Well, here's the thing. I don't even have the confidence that I could play Final Fantasy XIV in Japanese because it is very hard. It's very difficult, like kanji-wise. Like, I had to look up. It's like I can translate it because I know enough Japanese that it's very easy for me to look up things that I don't know. But like, I think in our Discord we posted, it was like one line about, it was kind of like a flowery line about a poem, but it had like 3 different words that I know, but I've never seen actually used together. Nashitogeru, koisho, which is After Effects, and then gotoku, which is like to take on the appearance of or similarity. It's really flowery. And yeah, that was fun to translate. Actually, Dan, go ahead and post, if you can copy paste that into chat, that would be my translation versus the official translation. Is spoken Japanese harder than written? No. Written Japanese is way harder. Way harder. Reproducing Japanese that you've heard is very hard, but written Japanese gets real tough. You have to remember, like, Japanese is a very old language, right? So there's a lot of history to draw on. English, so like post-Meiji Restoration Japanese got pared down a lot, but that doesn't mean that the old traditional Japanese forms are completely lost. So, there's still a lot of references and allusions to old classical Japanese in modern Japanese. So there's a lot more that's written than is spoken. Like, there are forms of Japanese where you just don't speak like that. It's only in written. I hate to say this, Niv, but the writing is good, but it's not in English. Yeah. Here's the line. So this is full disclosure. The line that he's about to post is the original is the one that was localized, and then the one after that will be the one that I translated. To give you some information, the line that I translated was translated without context. So I have not played a lot of Final Fantasy XIV. I have played some of it. I think I played up to the end of the original story quest, and then I got bored. Because they said it gets good in 100 hours, bro, trust me. Oh, just in general? Yeah. That's fine. God, I love CC Lemon. Don't you guys start spamming Twitch chat emotes at me? Monka S. Give me those Sag. When I point the camera away, it's just because somebody's coming and I don't want to film them if they don't want to be filmed. It's my favorite drink over here. Favorite drink. I mean, I gotta say, just like, it's gotta be CC Lemon. Yeah. So the line, that's the localized line, or the original translation line is, whenever we try to call their faces to mind, it's like they're standing between us and the midday sun, permanently silhouetted. I bet that sounds poetic to you. Well, it's not. It's bloody infuriating. So that's what they wrote. That's what they wrote. Now you can give my translation. So my translation of the actual Japanese line, and I'm confident of this. I put this translation up 10 times out of 10, I'd say my translation's better. Yeah, so my line was, we've not forgotten what they've accomplished, and yet when, whether due to some lingering effects I cannot say, we try to call to mind their names like a book burnt in the sun, we cannot find the words any longer. Yeah, it's completely different. The whole is bloody infuriating is just not there, and it kind of undercuts the emotional point of the line, right? Like, the character is not expressing like, oh, I don't like this poetic crap. They're expressing a poetic line. Recycle. Review. Oh, this one has Coke Zero. That's based. Real gold. Dr. Pepper, very nice. Good price. 2 sizes of real gold, though. 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10. Yeah, so the official, and like that doesn't even get started. That's every line, dude. I'm not getting the corn. I won't do it. Mini vending machine. There's vending machines everywhere. What do we got? Green tea. Tea. I Muse, Supply, Kirin. This one's boring. Kirin Lemon. Milk and coffee. That's about the most unique thing here. 5 out of 10. Boring. 5 out of 10. Boring. Yeah, but that's just like a badly translated, like, undercutting the emotional core of the line example. That doesn't even get into, like, the whole dragon speech thing that they had to, I believe they cut that out, right? Yeah, and like the 12 and falls balls and all that shit. None of that's in the Japanese, by the way. Nope. Nope. Not once. Not mentioned. No one mentions the 12. Not a thing. They don't exist. Never mentioned. By the 12, falls balls. Nope. That's all just dumb shit. Made up. Because Koji Fox is a fucking toddler. He has the emotional intelligence of a 12-year-old. Yeah, hit me. I can't guarantee I'll know the answer just because, like I said, I haven't played fully through the game. But I can live translate it pretty easily. I have a female row retainer. Oh, I absolutely, well, actually, I won't say because I'm not sure, but I would guess 90% sure that that's not in the Japanese. I would have to guess 90%. I would say with 90% confidence that's not in the Japanese. If you could show me the line in Japanese, I could tell you, like very quickly, but 90% confidence that's not there. Let me see, I think I missed a comment. I hear character being named in voice, but not in the text. The reason is that he just rewrote it. Yeah. There's a million rewrites in Final Fantasy. Like the new Final Fantasy 2, like the trailer. Like the trailer already has just well, I think it's already out, but the trailer that dropped was already full of like incorrect stuff. There's all sorts of issues there. Like another one that I'll bring up that really spurred me to look into translation and stuff a lot more was Valkyria Chronicles. The whole tone of that game is completely different in English versus Japanese, like completely different. It's way more somber. Like not to draw completely ridiculous what do you call it? Like parallels, but it's far closer to Band of Brothers than it is to like some happy-go-lucky war adventure type thing. I love Valkyria Chronicles. Valkyria Chronicles is way more serious than Japanese. Way more serious. So like what they did was they took the tone of like the beach episodes and like kind of like the fun little side stuff, and then they kind of just took that as the tone for the whole game and then made that just the whole game. Have we ever had good translations? Yeah. For sure there's good translations. It's not like everything's terrible, but a lot of it is an English problem, and a lot of it is just, there's just a lot of issues. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not like Valkyria Chronicles. Valkyria Chronicles is not as bad as Final Fantasy XIV for sure. It's not as bad. Persona 5 had a good-ish translation after it was fixed. Originally it was very bad, but that was mostly due to the Japanese side, actually. They had a lot of people in high positions who were basically messing with completed lines and changing things on the Japanese side, so it got a retranslation. It got fixed. Oh, you only played Royal? Yeah. If you only played Royal, you're good. From what I understand. I didn't play Royal. But then again, I didn't play it in English. I played it in Japanese when it came out. How bad are the Dragon Quest translations? Dunno. Not sure. The Yakuza games have great translations, actually. Not the dub, but the sub version. From what I understand, the Yakuza games are very well translated. Well, Kibo, that's not necessarily true. There's definitely, like, most, okay, so here's a little tidbit you might not know, but most languages, and this has been tested, most languages have the same or very close to the same throughput, the same bandwidth, you could call it, right? So the average time to transmit information in any given language actually averages out about to be the same. So when you are expressing an idea in Japanese versus English, the average time to get that information across is about the same. So while certain lines might be longer and shorter, most of the time it'll end up being around the same. But no, from what I've heard, like I said, the script for the dub and the script for the sub are different in Yakuza, which is actually a good sign. And from what I've seen of the subs of Yakuza, they're pretty good. I was shown an entire cutscene, and I couldn't find any issues with it. Yeah, well, see, that's the thing, is like, when you're translating, there will always be localization, always. You need to localize to translate properly. You can't not. I don't know if I talked about that, but like, it is not possible to translate without localization. You just can't. A good example, like idioms need to be localized correctly, all that sort of stuff. Gozaimasu. Moving away so I don't get that guy. Right? So I really do take issue with people being like, localizers. Oh, we don't want localizers. Like, I think that's a very losing argument to make. Right? Because you have to localize. You can't have naturally sounding lines without making sure that the important meaning is translated, not just the incidental words. Yeah, so, okay, Monogatari, thank you, letter. Like, that's a very good, Well, yeah, no, that's what I mean. So, like, for example, there's an idiom in Japanese that is like, should spears or arrows fall, right? If spears and arrows fall, that's an idiom. But we don't have that same idiom in English. So what do? Well, in most situations, unless it was specifically referenced in some other way which made the idiom explicit, which can happen, but unless that was explicitly mentioned, I would translate that to come hell or high water. Right? That's just a good equivalent. Come hell or high water, it fits. Another example for when like localization is kind of needed. So there's a scene in, I think it's season 2 of Monogatari, where Kaiki is introducing himself to Araragi. And Japanese names are composed of kanji, and the kanji have independent meanings. And so when somebody asks you your name, like Kaiki is composed of 2 characters. I believe it is seashell and tree, right? And so when he introduces himself, there's a lot of character information introduced in the way that he describes his name. So he says his name is Kaiki, and it's like the kai is for like an empty or discarded seashell, and the ki is for like a withered and dead tree. So typically you introduce yourself by giving 2 words that single out the kanji, right? So a word that has that character in it, so that they know that that's the one that you're talking about, because there's different characters that mean ki, like that make that sound. There's like kuki is like air, ki is also tree, right? So you give 2 examples so you know both of them, right? D for dog. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And so when he introduces himself like that, there's a lot of character information there that people in Japan know. But if you didn't localize it and say, you know, my name is Kaiki, the tree from withered tree and the shell from discarded shell, you wouldn't know. And that information is vitally important for the story. And so that's a point where localization is really needed. But to give a counterexample, and one of the reasons why I don't like translators' notes and why I wouldn't use them, oh, that's a really nice view, is if you guys have seen Hyoka. I don't know if you guys have seen Hyoka, it's a KyoAni show, right? There are a couple of scenes. Well, I mean, I don't want to talk about Monogatari, except that it's very good and you should watch it, right? Definitely watch Monogatari, it's fantastic. But I won't spoil like why Kaiki describes himself like that. I'm only talking about the fact that he does it. Hyoka's your favorite show? Excellent taste. So, one of the reasons that I don't like translators' notes is because there's an assumption that this is something that the author would have wanted to be made explicit, right? So, in Hyoka, for example, in the last episode, there are many people who thought that the last episode of Hyoka was very underwhelming or very unclear as to the kind of status of Chitanda and Oreki's relationship, right? And many people thought it was kind of like left in an awkward place, right? I'm not sure if you thought that. No. So I'm not talking about translation here. No. You're not wrong. Don't get it twisted. We're not talking about the translation. This is just an example about why I don't like translators' notes. It's good. It's really good. Don't worry. Translation for Hyoka is fine. Depending on which fan subs you use, it's probably fine. But there are many things that people missed in that show because they didn't understand the cultural connotations of it. So, for example, if you remember in the final episode when Oreki goes to visit Chanda and she's getting changed to be part of the parade, and number one, it's basically like he's meeting their parents, right? Oh, he's responding to Patch. Okay, cool. That was a very big, reaction. So he's like, number one, he's basically meeting her family, which is obviously carries heavy cultural connotations in Japan. Like for a ostensibly single guy to be meeting some girl's parents in a personal capacity is basically like, okay, yeah, they're dating, right? Obviously. However, even beyond that, when he goes to meet her, she's behind a curtain getting changed. And that is classically, like a classical Japanese thing is when you would, when somebody was betrothed, I think it was Heian period, you would meet them while they're behind a screen because you're not supposed to see them beforehand. So that was basically just like they are betrothed. They were making it very, very clear. It was like very obvious. And that's a place where you might be tempted to put in a translator's note because so many people didn't understand that. But you shouldn't do that because you are assuming that the author would have wanted you to understand that explicitly rather than implicitly. Right? And that's not your place to make that. Like, I can tell you now because I'm not officially associated with it. But you might be tempted to be like, oh, they're doing this because, and that deserves a translator's note, right? And I see that many times. They're like, well, you should use a translator's note to explain these cultural things that people might not understand. But on the flip side of that, it's like, I guarantee you and I have both read books in English, written by English authors, that had references that we didn't understand, right? So, should those books also have a note letting us know about the references that they're making? I would say no. One thing I would say is like, if for like Monogatari, I for sure, or like Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei, I for sure think that there's a place for like a companion guide or something like released that you can read afterwards to see some of the references. That's fine. I think that would make a lot of sense. But it shouldn't be part of the official imagery, for sure. Does Japan have benches? Very few. We're just walking now in the middle of nowhere. It's funny that we're having like the most discussion that we've had on the channel in like the most boring area I've walked to. We should have had this discussion when we were looking at those awesome views of Mount Fuji the other week. That was cool. Yeah. Explaining, like, sometimes characters will make explicit reference to things, so like they might talk about word choice in and of itself. And that's an issue. Like, then you would need to include something, because if they say, I don't know, oh, like, so, let me think. What's a good example? Trying to, I mean, I can't think of an example that for sure is in a manga, but there's like, let me think. What's a good example of this? It happens from time to time, especially with loan words. Yeah, that's the normal one, right? When they make explicit references to san or chan or sama, that kind of thing, right? Oh, actually, no, here's a good one, right? So, in Japanese very often, and I'm sure many of you guys know this, you do not refer to people by their first name. And so there are situations where, like, let's say you're making a phone call to somebody's house. You might say, is Honda-san home? But if there's multiple people, let's say there's a boy and a girl, right? They're both, they're brother, sister. You're trying to get in touch with one, but not the other, right? Miscommunications can occur when somebody says, did you call Honda-san? And you know that they're thinking about one, but not the other, right? Yeah, first name is really, it's not really only when you're close. There's a whole discussion to be had about that. But miscommunications can occur if you say, like, I called Honda-san's house and they weren't home. And so they assume that you're talking about one, but you were actually talking about the other. So how do you translate that? Because in English, we don't refer to people by their last name. And many times you would just refer to people by their first name. So how do you deal with that? It's very difficult. There's no one perfect way of dealing with it. Because it can compromise the quality of the translation if you insist on leaving in the san and sama and chan and all that stuff always, right? And then by the same token, it is not as simple as Mr. So-and-so, right? It's not used the same way. There are plenty of times when I would add san, but not Mr. in English. Yeah, like you call your friends so-and-so san all the time. It would be kind of weird for me to be like, just leave it off, even though if they're my friends. Like, let me think. One of my good friends is, you know, I met him through Twitter. His name is, well, his handle is like Moto Pashi, but I always call him Pashi-san. Like, always. It would be weird for me not to. It's one of those things that's like more feeling than anything else. Right? Well, you say that, but people use chang completely differently than is commonly understood in the West too. Like in a professional context, like a lot of times managers will refer to their subordinates as kun. So like I've been referred to as like Ruden-kun. Oh, that's my last name. I don't care. Whatever. Whoops. You'll never guess because it's in Japanese. Michael-kun, right? Footnotes in your books? I'm generally speaking against them. Generally speaking. I would like to avoid footnotes whenever possible. Just because they represent information that is being added to the book that wasn't intended to be there by the author originally. Yeah, but you'll never guess. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I mean, if the author puts them there, that's fine. But I would not put them there unless I had explicit permission from the author, and even then I'd be hesitant to ask, generally speaking. Generally speaking. Just because, again, it represents information that was not originally there. Also, I've been walking and I don't actually know where I am. I should probably check my map. Because I'm supposed to be going back to the station. Wait, did we hit 300 subs? That would be big poggy my doggy if we did. Hold on. Here, look at the vista behind us. Let's see. My location. Shibusawa Station. I don't think I didn't overshoot it. Okay, cool. Yeah, just turn right here. Nice. Okay, we're good. We're Gucci. 301 subs. Hell yeah, let's go. Big pog. Like I said, when we hit 500, I'm going to do an endurance stream because you need at least 500 subs to do monetization, and then it's just watch time from there. So once we hit that and get the watch time, then I'll be able to do super chats and stuff, which will be very nice. Because one of the things that I do want to do is like have super chats give me directions. Oh, that's views? No. Yeah, translations shouldn't add things that aren't there in the original. That's like the simplest way to put it, right? Very simple, straightforward. If it isn't there in the original, it's not your place to add it, even if you think you're being like explanatory. Yeah, exactly. So if we had super chats, then you could have made me drink the corn drink, but without them, I can't do it. So sorry. I'm also working on finishing a video finally, like an actual edited one from when I did canyoning. So that'll be up on the channel eventually too, hopefully, probably. I'll probably still do a live stream next week, even when doing Kirsch's stream, just to keep it going. I don't know if I can do it concurrently. Like, I don't know if I'll do like my side and her side. Probably doesn't make sense to have my side as well. So it'll probably just be on her channel because obviously it has way more reach. Relax content where it's not monetized. Look man, I'll do many things for money. I can be purchased. Just know that. There are prices for things that I will do. 300 subs celebratory corn? No. 500 subs celebratory. Get 500, 200 people in here and subscribe, I'll do it. I'll drink the corn drink at 500. Look. Yo, what up? I'm just saying, $20 is $20. Oh, there's a ramen place here. I lived in, I think, talking about the marathon stream that I'll do, I lived in like 3 different places all over Tokyo. Oh, wait, 3? All right, let me think. 1, 2, no, 1, 2, 3, wait. 4 different places. All right, 3-fer, we got a 3-fer. Mitsuya cider, Pocari Sweat, Monster. Small Monster, I like those, the extra strength. Oh, melon soda, melon cream soda, 7 out of 10. Pocari Sweat, lemon squash, vitamin C, Excelsior, Hachimitsu lemon, that's good, we like to see that. Lemon tea, 7, also 7. Coca-Cola, Real Gold X, never seen that. Chill out drink, those are terrible. 5. Speed reviews. Dude, Pocari Sweat is good. It's like Gatorade. Dude, Japan has so many vending machines. I think we've reviewed maybe 10 today. Just gotta double check my heading again. I brought my other phone just for this. All right, we're Gucci. Oh, it's green. Okay. Still technically early morning, but what time is it? Oh, it's like 9:30. Okay. We're good. See me go to Kyoto? I'd like to go to Kyoto, but to be honest, I've been there so many times. I do want to try and do more stuff that's like off the beaten path. But I mean, Kyoto would be a good trip. It's really all about the internet. Let me think. There was one place I was looking into. There's one official dark sky area in Japan. It's often like one of the islands. And you can actually get to it pretty easily. So I was thinking about going there, taking a trip. Fushimi Inari is very cool. Yakushima is very cool. I got some unexpected Christmas money that gives me a little bit of wiggle room to go a little extra on a trip. So I'm looking into what I can do. There is, like I said, a dark sky area in, I forget the name of the island, but it's like two jumps to get there. No, it's not Yakushima. Yakushima is nice, but it's not dark sky. There's one even further out. It's like part of the Okinawa island chain. But it's shut the fuck. How many Han is Yakushima? Oh no. Yeah, it's dark sky means it's like basically zero light pollution. So they kind of define it as what the sky looks like with no artificial lights anywhere, which would be very cool. I've never actually been to one, and I would like to. I don't know how well it'll capture. I'd probably have to do like a long exposure shots or something. But I have my GoPro and I think I can set it to do a long exposure. Yeah, if I could, I'd like to like travel back and it looks like they're doing some baseball stuff over there. I'd like to travel back for the eclipse, but I got cats, so I don't really have the ability to be gone for long periods of time. They're okay for a couple days, but not too much longer than that. I feel uncomfortable leaving them alone. Marvel at the amazing Japanese road construction. Don't you feel like you're exploring Japan? Look at those plastic tents and this fence. It's so wow cool Japan. Wow cool Japan. I like seeing, I'm gonna do a hot take. I like seeing satellites at night. I think that's based. Like I want more satellites. I want to bathe in 4G, 5G radiation and get superpowers from satellites. Wow, you really advertising your own Twitch channel in my stream. I can't believe you would do that, Dan. But that is our Twitch stream. I think we might play Zhong after this a little bit. But I'm doing a D&D thing later too, so I don't know. I'll have to see how long it takes me to get back. It might take an hour for me to get back from here. I'll probably end the stream once I get back to Shibusawa Station, see if we can see Mount Fuji there. But basically, you'll just need to wait for the official announcement from Kirsha? From the Schizo Fox about the translation localization stream. I don't know what I'm going to do for like an avatar for that. I don't want to have my webcam on the whole time. I feel like that would be excruciating. I'll probably just use myself from the manga, from Monster Musume. Jong! Nah, I'd win. How in the world do I learn to play Mahjong? Go to Mahjong Soul, create an account, play the tutorial, and then just cry. The Double Perfect KO Twitch channel? No, it's not. I'm not going to be doing the Kirsha stream on that. I'll be doing it on... I don't think I'm going to stream it from my side. Because I don't think it makes sense to split chat like that way. I think it'd be very weird. I mean, I guess it would be... Plus, actually, no, it doesn't really fit my channel. Like this channel, it doesn't really make sense. Like I said, I think I said it on Twitter, but I'm planning on making a second channel for more online content like games, anime, manga, that kind of stuff. Because I do like the idea of having a touch grass outdoors channel. Yeah, I'm doing a thing for a friend of mine. For D&D, that is. Let's see. It was faster to go this way. Oh, that's cool. Nice flowers. Kokushimuso. Yeah, as a guest, it makes sense. That's fine. I'll shill this channel on the stream for sure. But I'm just thinking of like having a VOD of that on this channel probably doesn't make a lot of sense. You just got to start playing Mahjong, Patch. What are you scared to play Mahjong? Yeah, I'm running 4E, so I like 4E the most out of all of them. But we're also working on a Hush Hush sequel to the hit D&D series Dungeons Revival, a Real Play Dungeons and Dragons podcast. Well, in my case, I think it just makes sense because this is very clearly like a touch grass channel, and it would be odd to have like videos about anime and games and live streams, and I don't think YouTube likes that. All right, see you, dude. Thanks for tuning in. I think we've had like 20 to 24 concurrent viewers all day today, which is awesome. Thank you very much for showing up and talking and hanging out. Please go ahead and leave like a comment about some other places you'd like to see next too, in terms of like locations. As long as it's not super far out there, I'll make an effort. It does help the algo if you leave comments. I know everyone says that, but it's true. Make sure I'm heading the right way. Yep. It's down this way, I think. Yeah. Jeez. Gotta love these narrow streets. Yeesh. Welcome to Japan. Everyone walks like this, is crazy. Technically a 2-lane road. Ring the bell for notification on all your devices, yeah. If somebody actually left a comment from their LG smart fridge, that would be awesome. Actually, it's just about the right time to get nigori sake too, which is like the cloudy sake. I might have to get some. Have I ever ridden the super fast bullet trains? Yeah, they're fun. Unfortunately, I've lost some of the magic because whenever I go into the office, I have to take the bullet train. There's actually a short video on the channel about the bullet trains. Yeah, you can only leave a comment after the stream, I believe. I think. Not sure how it works. Yeah, that's one of the things is like, once you live here, some of it becomes a little mundane. Some of it. It's like once you take the bullet train to work more than 20 times, it gets a little old. Oh, what's sake? Sake just means alcohol, but the typical stuff that you get that people call sake is what's called nihonshu, which is like Japanese rice wine. And right now, there's kind of an unfiltered kind. So normally rice wine gets really filtered to get kind of like some of the rice out of it. But yeah, Bud Light is technically sake. He's right, no, he's right. But right now in the winter is when they have what's called nigori sake, which kind of means like cloudy, and it's really, really good. Oh, there's Mount Fuji. It was right in front of me, I didn't even notice. Look at that. It's just kind of staring us in the face. Let's walk down this way, actually, because I could turn to the left, but think this brings us closer to Mount Fuji. It'll be maybe a better view if we just go straight. Fully behind the building now. Yeah, the one time I'm not actually looking for it. It's surprising how well you can see it from around here, because on a map it doesn't seem like you're that close. Wait, what did Kibo say? Just scroll back up. Sombrero just means hat in Spanish, yeah, that kind of thing. It's one of those memes. Yeah. I mean, Nikorizake is pretty rare, actually. I'd be surprised if you had it. Outside of Japan, anyway. I also do want to do some touring with my bike friends. I took a ton of 4K video with my dad when we went riding around. I made a trailer for it, but I'm just not very good at editing video, to be honest. Like, both using the program and coming up with ways to like stitch stuff together to like make a coherent storyline. So I may just bend to the power of money and like pay a friend of mine to edit it for me. Dude was not looking. That guy was not watching at all. Editing is hard, yeah. Yeah, but that video was like, it's not very good, I don't think. It was fun, but I don't think it's not very good. Mainlining Everclear? Hell yeah. That's how we do it. Gotta love those K trucks. Come barreling down the road at 50 miles an hour. Wait, what is that? This guy's got a blacked out drift car. Wait, what is that? That thing's tricked out. Comic Sans speech bubbles, hell yeah. Yeah, we're near Hakone, which is where all the initial D stuff is based. And so people have like tricked out bikes, tricked out cars. Drifting stream never. I don't want to die. Ugh. You can kind of see it through the... Kind of see it through all the... Now, we'll be able to see it when we get to the station, but you can kind of see it a little bit. It's crazy how fast it gets snow on it. A friend of mine, the mountaineer guy, wants to climb Mount Fuji with me in winter. Maybe next year. I gotta do more training. Because I collapsed last time. That's why I'm doing all these walking streams. Gotta get in better shape for endurance climbing. When it gets a little warmer, I'm gonna take a video of this back path through the mountains that you can take. I think they wanted me to turn. Yeah, that's fine. To get to this mountain ridge line. That's behind my house. That'll be cool. Yeah, hopefully. Well, that'll be in a couple of months, actually. Once they open it back up. I think it's starting in May. You can go back there. I do have some ideas for a second channel talking about like the scourge of isekai. This is right back where we started. The how something like Spice and Wolf could never get written again today. So I do have some contacts with the author of Spice and Wolf. So I've talked to him a few times. I did a little bit of translation work for him once as well. If you look the Spice and Wolf VR 2, the second one, website, I translated that. So I could probably do an interview with him talking about the novel. I think he's got a new novel out that is isekai, just because he's keeping up with the times, but I do think something like Spice and Wolf could never get published today, unfortunately. I'm waiting for isekai to die. I am going to disagree with you. I don't like isekai as a device. I think it leads to lazy world building. Like, conceptually speaking, right? Like, what it does is it just gives you the easiest fish out of water excuse possible. Because you just take a person, they don't have to have any sort of backstory, any sort of connection to the world as it exists, right? They don't need any of it. And you can just plop them in a new scenario. And then, once they're in that scenario, that world, you have the perfect excuse to lore dump, right? So somebody always has an excuse to tell them all sorts of things that a person who grew up in that world would already know. It's the ultimate get out of jail free card for tell, don't show. Plus, you can just give them like the backstory of the typical reader, so their character and cultural context can just be the reader. They don't have to have any sort of like knowledge base or anything that exists outside of what the reader already has. I don't think it's impossible to do right, and I think there are some very good isekai that have been done right, but it's such a crutch for world building. Like, I think the ones that I like the most, or I liked the most, was, yeah, I mean, that's just putting aside all of the tropes and whatever, right? The I'm a spider, so what? Kumo desu ga nani ga? That one. I like that one a lot just because it goes in hard, right? Oh, I mean, yeah, obviously isekai has been around for a long time, but the modern conception of it. I think the spider one is very, very good just because it goes quite hard on the concept. It takes the inner workings and it turns it up to 11. So instead of just being like, oh yeah, there is this back end that is an RPG system, blah, 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 right? It goes, well, okay, what if that's the case? It goes hard until it doesn't. Yeah, well, you know. The first like 50, I think the first 40 or so chapters have been really good, right? It went hard with the setting, right? So like the evolution point system and like the trees and all the inner machinations are really fleshed out, and that became like the point. And so you really got invested, like, how is she going to take advantage of these systems? They don't just exist in the background to avoid having to actually have your own magic system, right? It was like the point. And I really liked that. We're almost back. Wow, 3-hour stream, that's a long one. We'll get up onto the viewing area there, take a look at Fuji, and then call it a day. So my legs are turning to jelly now. Cigarette vending machine, let's go. 0 out of 10, don't smoke, kids. I do like Shibusawa Station as a station, it's pretty nice. Ooh, stairs. I'm dying. I'm dying, Squirtle. Let's go. There's like a Mr. Donut around here. Look at that, that's nice. Shibusawa Station. Mountain range. You can see all of the different peaks around here. And then, there it is. Mount Fuji. With the boy. There you go. Okay. Whew. All right, lads. Well, let's see if we can end it here. There's Mount Fuji. All right, I'm gonna end it here. Thanks for tuning in. I think this is like the most people we've had, so thank you again. Leave a comment, blah, 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 you know the deal. And then I'll give more information about when we're gonna go on Kirsch's stream. So thanks, people, see you. And then I'll try and upload the VOD to Twitter. See you guys. Oof. Bye. Peace out.